5 million people die of trauma across the world. The minute a trauma happens and by the time a patient gets a proper care, this hour is very critical. We call it the golden hour. 1 minute of delay causes 10% reduction in the life expectancy of the person who is in trauma.
Sunil Sharma is the CTO and CEO of a stealth AI startup transforming trauma care. With experience at Microsoft and global tech leaders, he is turning the golden hour into golden minutes, using AI, AR, and real-time data to save lives.
So I've been into data science and AI for, I would say, last 10 years. So my company, we had a clinical pathway solution where based on the data, the condition of the cancer and everything, it will recommend a pathway that this is the kind of treatment this patient needs.
AI, hallucinations, right? What if it gives you the wrong data as it's, doing its analysis? What are the guardrails you're using for situations like that?
When we are training the models, we use testing, training, and validation. We're going to collect, let's say, 1,000 samples. We're going to use 75% of the data for testing, then a piece for training, and a piece for validation.
How about in the use case where the individual might have an internal injury that may not be visible to the AR systems? What happens in that use case? Welcome to Automate or Die Trying. My name is Wil Ramos. Today, our guest is Sunil Sharma. So Sunil is currently a CTO and CEO of a stealth mode MedTech startup building AI and AR solutions for trauma care. Before this, Sunil was the Chief Strategy and Innovation Officer at Critical River, where he scaled teams from 50 to over 200 and drove the company toward $1 billion valuation. He's led data science and platform engineering at Thermo Fisher Scientific, spent nearly a decade at ADP building products for over 600,000 clients, and today he's also advises Cybersecurity and teaches executive education at Wharton, Stanford, Seed, and Berkeley. Sunil, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Will.
So your work is about, I'm going to quote you here, right? Turning the golden hour into golden minutes, right? So for listeners who don't know what that term is, the golden hour is a critical window after a traumatic injury where treatment dramatically improves survival odds, right? So you're trying to compress that with AI and AR, right? So before we get into the how, what made you decide that this problem was worth solving?
Yeah, that's a great question, Will, and thank you very much for having me here and asking a very, very critical question. So if you look at the trauma care statistics worldwide, around 5 million people die of trauma across the world. And that could be actually easily be cut down by 50% if the people who are in the trauma situations get some kind of, I would say, treatment or triage or guidance quickly. Now, what is considered a golden hour is that when a trauma happens, and trauma can happen, especially my solution is more focused toward the austere environment. Austere environment is, for example, somebody got shot in a gunfight on a street, somebody got stabbed in a street, or a soldier got shot by a bullet in the battlefield, or somebody got IED explosion. So, or there's a disaster situation, there's a flood, or there is a tornado or a fire or something like that. Or think about a remote location where there are no doctors and nobody's there to take care of somebody who's on trauma. So the minute a trauma happens and by the time a patient gets a proper care, either in the hospital or whatever needs to be done, so this hour is very critical. We call it the golden hour. And if we can actually convert some of that golden hour into life-saving minutes, so the rate is that 1 minute of delay causes 10% down or 10% reduction in the life expectancy of the person who is in trauma. So we have seen all that. I come from India and I've seen hearing, if the patient was in the hospital 10 minutes earlier. Oh, if doctor had seen this guy like 20 minutes earlier, or if the first responders had arrived, let's say like 15 minutes earlier. So uh, I've seen through my family, my friends, and when we were talking, and even if you look at a trauma situation, the people who come, they have to put a blood pressure wrap, or they have to measure something, means you have to touch the body, and it takes time. So we thought, what if we have a solution where you don't have to touch the patient, and all their data could come automatically through glasses, and there is a head-up display which you can communicate through on the statistics of the patient, and which can be connected to the data, and then it can give you some triage, some recommendation, voice or textual, to actually give some kind of help to the trauma victim to extend his life
Wow,
expectancy.
wow, that's a great cause. So take us back. How did you first get into this space, like the intersection of data, AI, and building at scale?
Yeah. So I've been into data science and AI for, I would say, last
Mm,
I would say 10 years. And I've done a lot of data science work, companies like Thermo Fisher, Critical River, ADP, and there was another small company which I worked for healthcare, where we had a clinical pathway decision support system. So, for example, let's say somebody is a cancer patient, they go to the provider, and provider says, "Okay, you got a particular kind of cancer, and you need this kind of vial. Vial is a kind of injection for the cancer patients. And the cost of that vial, if it is generic, could be, let's say, $500. If it is branded, it could be $50,000 or $5,000. So my company, we had a clinical pathway solution where, based on the data, the condition of the cancer and everything, it will recommend a pathway that this is the kind of treatment this patient needs, and this is the kind of vial you need, and these are the vial available as generic. So it will give a recommendation to the provider and the panel of doctors. So sometime we would find, instead of a vial which is $500, he needs a $50,000 vial, or instead of 50,000, he needs 5,000, and this is the right clinical pathway. So this is one of the solutions which I worked on. And as we are looking at the technology disruption, now we are at a point where in 90s we had something called AI winter, but at this point it's not AI winter, actually it is AI spring, because the AI has matured, data has matured, technologies like AR are maturing, and talent is available, infrastructure is available. So having all things in mind, and we kind of see how we help, and then we also said that there is a big shortage of healthcare workers across the world, even in US for that matter, which means that we don't need an expert in some of the situations. We need a first aid kind of help, so that we can help the patient to extend his life expectancy. So based on this research and everything, we thought, why don't we build something where we just, the first responders or whoever the person arrives first time at the location, looks at the patient through the glasses, gets a hazard display, and can do a lot of things. The data which is collected, what if we integrate data with the identity of the patient in the back end, and it gives you some recommendations also, what's going on the patient, what needs to be done. What if the data could be transferred to the ambulance, or what if the data could be transferred to the hospital, so before a patient arrives, the doctors have all the data about the patient, what
wow,
needs to be
wow.
done.
So you spent almost 10 years at ADP building products that served, over 600,000 clients. Um, what did
Mhm.
that scale teach you about building systems that cannot fail?
So I think so. There are three things when you're looking at systems of that scale. You're looking at speed, scale,
Hmm.
and precision. So speed comes not with a manual work. Speed comes that what are the processes, what are the standards which could be automated using the software or using the automation, AI, and a combination of that. Second is that how you kind of auto scale your infrastructure so that it can scale. So if you're a company like ADP, you will see that a lot of people log in at the when their salary distribution happens or the end of the quarter. So because this is where, or when the tax filing time is there, so there's a peak. So how do you auto scale your infrastructure? And that also there's a lot of automation there. And third is the quality. Quality means that how do we provide what customers are looking for? Are they looking for just a report, but they need a quality of data? So in the background, a lot of things go into the picture. One is having a robust automation, not only the workflow, but again, a lot of the decision support systems in the back. If a customer is asking a question, certain criteria, then you don't have to actually call the customer service. You can get the answers. And third thing is that the quality of the service you provide. So all these factors together helps provide the speed, scale, and precision at that scale, 6 million users, or you can say the 60 million user from their perspective. At that time when I was working with ADP, we had around 600,000 clients across US and worldwide. And imagine 600,000 clients and number of users there.
Right.
And millions.
Wow. So you was there a project or a failure that early in your career that fundamentally changed how you think about building reliable systems under pressure?
Yeah, so I think one of the thing we saw was there was a security breach. Okay, and the company is a big company. ADP is a big company. We have a lot of the personal data for the companies and the employees and all that, and that kind of gave us a I would say a kind of a wake-up call, like, okay, we need to think through our systems again. That's one. Second was that the time we were taking the software development to the production, it was taking a long time, sometimes 6 months, 1 year. And if you see how the customers are changing, the demands are changing for a new feature or capability, I don't think the customers or the users have 6 months or 1 year to wait. Third thing was that the how do we remain competitive? How we do things faster and better and remain competitive with our partner network as well as with our competition? So all these thinking together made us think now we need to bring certain fundamental changes. Number one was how we become an agile organization. Means if you're developing a software in 6 months, how do we do it in 6 weeks? All right. So we came out with the agile transformation strategy across the company. This is where we introduce agile in a big way at the corporate level. We also introduced the concept of OKR at that point in time. Okay. We also brought the culture of product thinking, product force thinking rather than releases or softwares. We need to think a product. Okay, how are we going to think about a feature as a product for the customer? Second was, for example, ADP was very heavy in reporting. So because of the audit and compliance, we will send CDs and boxes of reports or allow reporting. We said, okay, instead, what's there in the report? Report is basically a data for a compliance which customers need. What if we can expose that data which customers need through our portal? Okay, what we call is we developed a portal at that time. This the client compliance portal, through which the clients can actually access the data they need. They can run the report they need, so they don't have to rely somebody sending them anything. Okay, so there were multiple factors which kind of encouraged or drove these innovations at ADP. Again, coming down to 3 terms which I use is speed, scale, and precision. So these are 3 important factors, and how we were able to achieve their multiple combination. One is the innovation, automation, and definitely listening to what customers are asking for.
Okay, let's go back a little bit into what you're developing now. I'm very fascinated with what you're doing here. It's a very noble cause. So now you're creating AI and augmented reality systems for first responders and medical medics, right? So meaning they have in austere environments, right? So they have limited resources, high chaos, life or death stakes, right? So walk us through what does that system actually need to do in the moment, right? Kind of walk us through that.
Yeah. So take the example of let's say let's say soldier. Okay, a soldier got hit by IED or let's say bullet. Okay, now the other fellow soldiers, they're only fellow soldiers which are there. So what if let's say this soldier had normally what they will do is they count something and they try to do something with the wound, and he doesn't know what the blood pressure is, what the heartbeat of the patient is, what the temperature of the person doesn't know the vitals. What he's trained is to do is he'll take out some kind of treatment and try to do it without really knowing much what's going on. So what if I gave you a pair of glasses, and this pair of glasses, you look at the patient or the person who's been hurt, and it gets all the data without even touching the patient yet. It will give you the heartbeat. It will tell you if it is conscious, not conscious. It will tell you what the blood pressure is, what is the heart rate of the patient is, because otherwise you will need ECG to see how the heart is beating. So all that information based on that, and that goes into, let's say, platform, and the AI models, they analyze the information and they give the recommendation to the fellow soldiers what to do. These are the steps you can take. And also it shows if you take, based on these vitals, the life expectancy of the patient is 40%. There's a 40% chance the patient will survive. It will also tell you where's the bullet, which part of the bullet, and how deep it is, because it creates a 3D model of the body, kind of a twin. And it tells you where the bullet is, how deep the bullet is, and which is the angle. All this data is collected, and based on some of the pre-recorded historical data on those kind of situations, and combined with the vitals, it might give you some try situation. Okay, do X, do Y, do Z. And what if we are also able to recognize through the biometrics who this patient is? So this data is not combined with his medical history. So before now, the patient is going to call the fellow soldier is going to call the first responders, the helicopter or something. But prior to that, that data is actually already transmitted to these people. Okay, this is the person who's got shot. This is the wound side, the 2 bullets, 3 bullets, and this is the he's conscious. This is the blood pressure. This is the heart rate. This is the temperature. So they can think about or push some other instructions to the fellow soldier to try and save. So it is a combination of the data, the augmented reality, the AI models, the automation, the historical data, the research. So basically what we are trying to do is we are extending the reach of these healthcare workers. So we are making non-healthcare workers as kind of healthcare workers, at least in that situation. So we are not saying we're going to do a surgery, but at least it will help you triage the situation and transform that data. Later on, maybe when we get a little more advanced, we will do little more advanced use cases. For example, if somebody is on a spacecraft going to, let's say, Mars, and the person gets sick or some problem, there are no doctors on this space shuttle. So the fellow astronauts can provide that help, and those things could be guided from the Earth.
Okay. So, especially with AI, right? What is the failure mode that you're most paranoid about? Like, how are you designing around it? Like, for instance, AI, hallucinations, right? What if it gives you the wrong data as it's, doing its analysis? How do you design around that? What are the guardrails you're using for situations like that?
Yeah, excellent question, Will. I'm happy you answered that question. So, when was the last time you saw a horse cart?
What's that?
Have you seen a horse cart?
Yes, of course. Christmas movies around this time, you see them on the movies all the time right now. So yeah.
So if you see a real horse, like if you maybe go in the interior part of US, you'll see Amish, horse. And so if you see in the horse, there are blinders on the side of the eyes of the horse. There's a reason behind it, because we want horse to just look forward, not left, not right, because otherwise the horse is going to smoke, because they don't want to process this data which is coming from the sides. So we want horse to focus just a straight line, look at the road, and then keep on running, walking, whatever he or she's doing. Same way, look at today's the situation of the AI. We are in the hybrid mode, means we have different kind of AI. We have the predictive models, we have prescriptive models where predicting a specific outcome, not like series of outcome. Now we have generative AI. Generative AI is creating a brand new content altogether. Based on your intent, he says, okay, this is what it will thinks, and this is the answer may be. It's not deterministic. So not deterministic means um, it may feel correct, but it may not be correct. Model doesn't know. Model is just giving you the information based on what you asked, what model thinks based on those words in that question, and it makes series of predictions based on the data it has been fed, brings it together, collects it together, and gives it to you. May not be correct, because if you have fed the wrong data, if the context is not right,
Right.
it will be incorrect. So the point I wanted to highlight here is the context, the business context, the situation context, the problem context. So when coming to AI and these models, now we are going toward hybrid models, means a combination of models working together, what we call now the agentic system. So in the agentic system, each agent could be a model, and a LLM could be an orchestrator, which is orchestrating the whole orchestra, and then the final outcome is a, let's say, Beethoven piece. In the same way here, there is an orchestration. There are different agents. They are different. They're talking to tools. They're talking to other agents. But there's a mission: produce a fantastic orchestra or a number. So here, when you asked a question of guide rail, the first and most important thing is the business context. So when we are training these models, we are training these models in the context of trauma situation. Okay. So when I'm asking a question, let's say golden hour, so the model will understand, okay, golden hour in the context of health situation, a trauma situation, not otherwise. Sometimes golden hour could be when there is a new year countdown going on. We can call it golden hour also. So, but here the golden hour in the context of this one. Sometimes we use the terms like TOI, which is transdermal optical imaging. So when we measure the blood pressure of the person, of the injured person, without touching the body, we use the TOI technology, the transdermal, the optical imaging. So the models will understand when TOI what means, what the business context is, and what the data we are feeding. That's one of the things, business context. Second is that there are certain terms which we will say, okay, and they're not allowed to ask, or we'll block them. Okay. Third thing is the who can access what. Okay, we are transmitting the data, let's say, to ambulance, hospital, but doesn't mean that anyone can access it.
Okay.
Okay. So these are some of the guide rails we plan to put in, or we are putting in the access, because we don't want this to become as a public data. So we're gonna be going through all the standardization, all the approvals and everything, so that it is secure, it is protected, because it's a personal data or a patient, it's a health data which you want to be protected.
Right. You got to abide with all the PI, HIPAA, and all those regulations and whatnot. So when you're testing this data or you're testing the system, how do you validate that it's ready to go? Like, at what point do you make the go decision where, okay, this is good, this is good, depending on the use case, obviously, right? And how do you separate an individual use case for this system versus like a mass casualty event, right? You got multiple, people in the field that need help. So how does the system recognize things like this?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So as we are still in the development phase, so our next step is to do certain controlled experiments. So we are looking at doing experiment in Austere environment, which is open, and we are also looking at an environment which is controlled, like we might have a patient in the hospital and then see how we collect the data and everything, how we collect the data from a person who is in the Austere environment. So since this kind of data, there is no record, there is no historical data, the way we are collecting, there is no historical record for that. So whenever we are starting the data builder from scratch. We are looking at, let's say, and in the later part of our development, once we, in the right funding and everything, is that we will be also collaborating with the Navy, Army, Air Force, and NASA because they are advanced in this area. So, for example, we're going to collect, let's say, 1,000 samples, 1,000 people, and we're going to use 75% of the data for testing, then a piece for training, and a piece for validation. So there are three states when we are training the models. We use testing, training, and validation. Then we're going to look at the research data. What research has been done in TOI technology, the blood pressure, the heart, which is touchless things. What are the patient they used, how they collected the data. So we're going to also stitch it together, and we will start putting some recommendations that based on these circumstances, these situations, this is the recommendation triage given by our platform. Then we're going to compare historically that what are the other triages given in this situation and what is the accuracy level. All right, we need to make sure that it is almost 100% accurate. Will it be always 100% accurate on the situation? Answer is no. So we need to see what is the margin for error. Okay, so that's why the first phase we're just going to use it for triage. Okay, triage means it will help you diagnose and everything and help the person to take care of something, but not keeping away from any kind of surgical kind of thing. This triage, recommendation, training, procedures, and everything. Now, so we are focusing on one patient at this point because of the AR technology, which is limited. And when you have these glasses, when you move left, right, up and down, so the frame of reference may change. So the AR technology, as it will mature, we're going to mature. Can we look at 2 people? Can we look at 3 people, 4 people, 5 people? Because at this point in time, it cannot handle multiple bodies from that perspective. If you are just walking around and cameras capturing picture, that's okay. But when you're looking for a trauma patient, so at this point, we are just focusing on one body at a time.
Now, how about in the use case where the soldier, the individual might have an internal injury that may not be visible to the AR systems? What happens in that use case?
Yeah, I think, Will, you're asking great questions. So one of that injury is your head injury, especially. So brain injury. A lot of these trauma are brain injuries which are never detected. So there is a research going on. There is no, at least I haven't come across a clean technology, clean kind of solution at this point. There are research going on where through because if you look at iPhone or something, if it can generate certain kind of waves, uh, and it can also look at, let's say, if a soldier is hurt and he got the trauma because let's say it hit his head or somebody hit with a blunt object which is not visible but it's in the head injury. So you look at the body, there's no injury, but person is not kind of non-conscious. Means second thing is that either he means particularly he got a head injury. So can we the glasses, can we use again this TOI technology to see if he got a brain swelling or some changes in his normal brain condition. So we are not testing with that at this point, but maybe 6 months to 1 year down the line, once we come across some research paper like that, which we can identify the brain injury without touching the patient through kind of ultrasound or some kind of technology. So that's on the roadmap, but we haven't experimented with that.
Okay. I guess as the product gets more mature, I definitely would like to have you back on the podcast and go over those different changes. So let's go to some other aspects of your career that you enabled automation at scale, right? Like at Critical River, right? You built something called the Digital Science Innovation Lab, right? So it reportedly cut product development cycles by 40%. So for leaders that are listening who want to accelerate without breaking things, how did that work? How did you make that work?
Yeah, that's an awesome question, Will, again. So Critical River is a IT services and consulting company. And their challenge was that how we respond fast to the customer, how we respond fast to technology adoption as the technologies are changing, how we actually adopt that technology into our product and solution so that we can respond to the customer faster. Third thing is that how we build solutions and services around these technologies so that we can sell additional product and services to the new customers or existing customers. It's a very competitive market. It's a very crowded market, very competitive market. So how you differentiate yourself. So if you are always kind of providing services and running behind the customers, doing SOWs and everything, not really paying attention how the technology landscape is changing. So if you look at the technology landscape, there are four important factors. One is the technology development. Second is the adoption. Third is the ecosystem, and fourth is the business model. So your business model should keep on emerging and keep on evolving as the industry is changing, your geopolitical environment is changing. So having said that, as I mentioned, that IT service is a very crowded market. So the idea I came out with that, okay, we need to have a dedicated kind of a lab, what I call a digital science innovation lab, where people are working on what is the latest and greatest. Some of the people who are working with the customers and how we co-innovate with the customers. All right. So the best co-innovation which I've seen works is that when there is a good support from the customers. So what we did was we worked with some of our critical, or you can say key customers, to work on some joint projects. Okay, they had some big business problem, and one of the high tech customer in the Bay Area, I cannot disclose the name, but they're one of the very successful companies, and we use them almost every day. So we solved a finance and accounting challenge for them. So they came, okay, we have this problem, and then we worked together, and as a result, we came out with a generative AI platform for finance and accounting. All right. So, and it was a co-innovation together. Now, what has happened as a result, when teams are working together, all that unnecessary, the unnecessary, I would say, the back end flow of staffing and other things goes away, because now both the client and we are focused on the defined product outcome. We have the common goal, we have the common outcome, OKR agreed upon. Now everyone is working towards it, which kind of takes away a lot of the unnecessary people working on the team. There are pods created, which are called the product-oriented development teams. And as part of this digital science innovation lab, which was in Hyderabad, we created pods. So a client, let's say we have a client X, there are 50 people working there from my company. They may be working on different projects. So what we did was, okay, let's look at these 50 people, what they're doing. So can we organize these 50 people as instead of individual contributors as small product groups, which are working on common things? So that way it becomes very efficient for the customer, because now they know what specific outcome we are getting from the team, not from the person. And also gives them opportunity to leverage some of their bandwidth on working on multiple things. So for example, there are 5 architects working for one client. I don't need 5 architects. Maybe one architect is sufficient to handle 5 teams. And another architect handle 2 teams, because the technology stacks and everything kind of common for the clients. So these are some of the technologies and everything we have created. We also created kind of a factory model. So what we did was we worked with the clients on regular basis. Every quarter and yearly, we'll participate in their roadmap. So let's say for fiscal year 26, we will start working with these major clients. Okay, what are the projects they're planning for FY26? What kind of projects they are? Based on those projects, we can work backwards that the current staffing model, what we have, how we need to ramp up or ramp down or divert that capacity into some other projects. So that gives a visibility, and then we keep on doing a rolling planning quarter by quarter with each client. So these are some of the changes which we did. And the DSIL was completely agile, a product-oriented organization, where the team worked on the clients, as well as a percentage of their time was gone on R&D.
Okay. Now, you were recognized in Forrester Wave twice for data quality and AI best practices. So what does data quality actually mean in practice when you're building an AI product?
So that's a great question again, Will. So when I say data quality, let's first define the value of the data. So a company might say we have terabytes and terabytes of data. We have a lot of data. It doesn't mean anything. If the data is not in a state where it could be consumed for any kind of purpose, either for integration or for analysis or for, let's say, modeling. That's question number one. Question number two is that data is valuable in its context. Okay. If the data is fit for the use, then we have a data quality. You may have a pristine data, but it's not in the context and it is not fit for use. I don't consider it as a data quality. All right. So, especially in the AI world, it is very, very important that your data is in the context of a problem or a use case. Number one. Number two, it is fit for be consumed by the models or for the analytic. Then I say, okay, you have a quality data. Number one. Number two, depending on the use case, how fresh is your data? Is it 6 months old? 6 years old? So depending on the use case, sometime if you are giving a real-time recommendations on your e-commerce website, it should be fresh.
That makes total sense.
Okay. And then sometimes depending on the use case, there are multiple factors. But again, those multiple factors determines your business context. So if your data is good in that context, you can say, yes, it is quality data.
Okay. So you're also a strategy advisor at Option Security. So our audience includes a lot of CISOs and security leaders, right? So when you're advising a cybersecurity company while also building AI systems, how do you think about securing AI pipelines and automated decision making?
Yeah. So that's again a great question. So when I spoke to Oz and James, who are the founders and CEO of the company with Critical River, and then first time when we had a conversation, it was this kind of conversation, just brainstorming, and we came with the idea that we are thinking about this AI security. What do you think? So my recommendation to them was that what I've heard from you guys, you should go and build it. It was just a concept at this point in time. So they said, okay, we have spoken to so many CIOs or CISOs, but everyone said, no, we already have cybersecurity products. You don't have to build it. I said, no, I have a different opinion. Different opinion is that cybersecurity so far has been to secure the data, the applications, who cannot access, who cannot hack. But the way we're going to use AI is more internal facing. So the people in the company, they're going to use the AI tools, not the external people. So your threats, your risk is coming from internal. So you have to take a different mindset now. That's question number one. Question two is that there is a big, I would say, friction, or you can say, I would say, the hindrance in AI adoption. And there's a lack of trust and confidence in AI adoption. And one of the reasons for that is the security. Okay. Who can run what prompt? What kind of data I'm exposing, let's say from Microsoft Copilot or Anthropic. What are the models we use in the organization, or OpenAI? What data I'm exposing? What questions I'm asking? What the workflows I'm able to run? I have no control. Okay. Third thing is that how do I help organizations accelerate my AI development and adoption so that I can influence my business strategy? So these are 3-4 factors when we discussed. I said, if you're addressing them, go ahead and build it. So they said yes, and then I think they go ahead and build the solution. So the focus here is on the AI adoption and acceleration, not per se as cybersecurity. Now, the way the cybersecurity is happening now, in my opinion, if you like AI security, you look at identity management, then you're looking at the cyber from outside. So in my opinion, all these things have to converge together now. If you look at your even your cloud or your deployment platform, AI will be integral part of it now. As you have other software applications, AI will be part of it. So which means we have to take a fresh look at our strategy, not just call it cybersecurity, but overall, I would say a comprehensive converging platform or converging thought process from an AI security perspective. For example, if you look at your data strategy, earlier we used to do more data management, how not to allow access to the data. Okay, who cannot access? Okay, we are protecting it for the compliance, but now the companies who are not able to expose their data, democratize their data, they are not able to do data science properly or AI adoption properly because all your algorithms run on the data. So now the strategy is how we expose more and more data to more and more users in the company so they can use the data and come out with more ideas and solve more business problems.
Now, what do you think is the biggest blind spot you see organizations when they deploy AI at speed?
So in my opinion, what I have observed is that there's too much focus on the models and algorithms. So if you look at the whole data science or the proper AI project, the algorithms are only 20% of the whole program. 80% is before and after what happens in the whole program. So before means that you are looking at what are the business problems you want to solve. You don't want to adopt AI because everyone is doing it. Okay. We need to look at, okay, let's say we are in a manufacturing industry or a semiconductor industry. In the semiconductor industry, what kind of business context or environment I'm operating? What is my geopolitical environment? How does it impact me? Now, what are my business challenges? For example, in the semiconductor industry, one of the biggest challenges companies has the wafer. You have a wafer from which the chips are manufactured, wafer optimization. There's a lot of wastage on the wafers. So if you have a wafer and if the yield is 50%, means from wafer, only 50% of the material used, 50% is wasted. What if I can increase my yield from 50 to 70%? Right there, I'm looking at hundreds of millions of dollars. So my first recommendation there is to all the executives or leaders is ask key business questions. Ask key business questions means what are the challenges we need to solve? Are we trying to increase the revenue? Are we trying to improve operating cost? Are we trying to create a new product or service? Are we trying to improve our decision making? Are we trying to improve our customer service, or we are into R&D? That's number one. Based on that, then we need to come out with some measurement criteria. Let's say if I say, okay, I have increased my revenue by 5%. How will you measure it? And who will measure it? Third thing is that you prioritize it and you link it with your business strategy and business plan. Okay. Then once you are clear on the use cases, the strategy and prioritization, then your technical team can say, okay, to solve this problem, these are the kind of algorithms we need. These are the models we need. Okay, we need, even before that, the first question will be, okay, what kind of data we need in the company? Do we have that data? Is the data all over the company or it is in a platform? If it is all over the platform, we need to bring it together somewhere, stitch it together. Is it quality of data? Is it too much or is it clean, which could be used by algorithms? So we answer those questions and then the technical team can decide what kind of algorithms we need. They run the algorithm, they run the AI and everything, and they're going to look at, okay, where we can go and what kind of things we need to do. So it's a whole ecosystem. And once you start getting the outcome, how are we going to measure it? Who's going to adopt it? Who's going to train it? So what I call is a flywheel effect. It has to create a flywheel effect, feedback, improvement, more data, more insights. Again, it's once this start running, it runs like magic. For example, at Thermo Fisher, we were able to generate close to $1 billion in incremental revenue using the data science program.
Wow. That's great. That's great. So Sunil, this has been a very good conversation. So let me ask you, like, for folks that want to follow your work, learn about you, from you, or even connect, where should they go?
I think one best is that connect with me on LinkedIn, and I sometimes I share my insights of my executive classes from Berkeley or Wharton. Sometimes I post, but if they want to, let's say, kind of thinking about how to create a data strategy or AI strategy, or how to go about technology acceleration or adoption, So I'll be more than happy to share my thoughts that how I've been helping the clients or have helped the clients in the past within the companies or outside around these areas. So LinkedIn is the best one, but I think if they're more specific, they want to have one-on-one kind of thing, then definitely, I can share my email or phone number also.
So once again, thank you, Sunil. This conversation was about what happens when automation isn't optional, right? When a system has to work because someone's life is actually counting on it. That's a bar that most of us should be building towards, even if the stakes aren't quite as high, right? So to everybody listening, thanks for spending time with us on Automate or Die Trying. If this conversation made you think differently, share it with someone who builds. And if you haven't already, subscribed whenever you get your podcasts. Until next time, keep building, keep shipping, and don't let perfect be the enemy of deployed. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Will. It was a pleasure
Yeah,
talking to you today. Thank you. Bye-bye.